All right, this is A19. I'm doing number 3, which is -4 minus 8. So first thing I'm going to do is look over at my number line, and I'm going to start at -4. So let's go ahead and I'm going to go down to -4. There's where we know we start. Okay, now, so it tells me here that I'm going to go minus a positive 8. So that means I'm going to go down, right? And there's no negative sign on this to make me change directions again. So I'm going to go down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I'm going to end here at -12. So let's go ahead and put a dot on a dot here on -12. And once again, we went 1, 2. I only did this because I think the yellow looks cool. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And that puts us at -12. So now let's look at it, doing it arithmetically. So let's go ahead here. And we're going to have this -4, right? And we're not going to do anything to that. And now we have minus, right, a positive 8. So since it's a subtraction problem, we are going to change the sign, right, of this number, the number we're subtracting, and we're going to change the sign of the subtraction problem. So that's going to give us -4, and we're going to take this minus sign, right, and we're going to change that to a plus sign, and we're going to take this guy's sign, the second one's sign, and we're going to change that, right, to a negative. Oh, I guess I need a pen, huh? So that's going to give us a minus and then 8. So once again, what we did was we changed the sign of this to a plus sign so we could work with it, and that made us have to change the sign of the number that we were subtracting. So now I have a subtraction problem, and they have the same sign. So I keep their sign, so I know my answer is, in fact, negative, right? So that's what I know so far. And since they both are negative, they have the same sign, I know I'm going to add their absolute values. So that's going to give me the absolute value of -4 plus the absolute value of -8. And once again, that gives me 4 plus 8, which we all know is 12. So my answer is -12, and that gives me the same answer I got graphically. So once again, just looking at it real quickly, we took our -4, we started at -4 on our number line, and then it told us to subtract a positive 8, so subtraction tells us to go down, right? The number will get smaller, and this is positive, so there's nothing to make us change direction again, so we have to go 8 down 8, and that puts us at -12. Doing it without the number line, right? I have -4 minus 8, so I'm going to change that to an addition problem. So I have -4 minus a positive 8. So I'm going to change this sign. If I change that sign, I have to change the number I'm subtracting sign. So that left me with -4 plus a -8. Since both of them were negative, I know my answer had to be negative. And then I'm going to, because the signs are the same, they're both negative, I'm going to add their absolute values. When I do that, I get 12. Therefore, my answer is -12, just like the number lines show. All right? So that's the end of that. Oh, I guess I need to tell you what I'm going to ask you on your quiz. And I guess I'm going to say, the problem was -4 minus 8. I turned that into -4 plus -8. Why did I do that? And the answer is because you changed the subtraction to an addition, so you had to change the sign also that you were, of the number that you were subtracting. If you changed this sign, you had to change this guy's sign as well. All right, and then your extra credit is what is on the TV right now, and the answer is I am watching the 49er Lion game. All right, guys, next video. All right, so this is A8 A19, I guess, and it's problem number 18. No wonder I'm confused. So it's A19, assignment 19, but problem number 18. So in this case here, right, I'm starting at -6, so I'm going to go over to my number line, right, and I'm going to start at -6. So there I am with the dot at -6. Okay, then this -3, right, tells me I'm going to go down 3 from there. So let's go ahead and go down 1, 2, 3. So now I'm at -9. And then I'm over here, and it tells me I'm going to go down 2 from there. But then the negative says, nope, we're not going to continue down. This is going to put us in reverse. So that tells us from that 9, we're actually going to get a new color. Go up 2 from there, so that's our 1, that's our 2, and our final answer is right here, right, at -7. So that's what we got on the number line. Now let's see what happens if we do it algebraically. So we're over here, right? I don't do anything with the first guy. He gets to hang out at -6. Now I'm going to take this, right, minus sign, and I'm going to change the sign on this, so therefore I have to change the sign on this. Since this was a negative sign, it is going to become a plus, right? So I want to write it as an addition problem. And then since this guy was a +3, right, I'm going to change his sign and write him as a -3. And now let's go ahead, and we're left with, right, minus a -2. So we have -6, right? We changed the sign here already. So this is already written now as a plus -3. And now we have to look at this. This is a negative, so we're going to rewrite this as an addition. That's totally fine with us, right? Let's go ahead and do that. So that becomes a plus sign, just like we want. This is -2, so we have to change the sign on that, and he becomes a +2. So now let's go ahead and work it through. So we're going to go ahead and add the first 2 numbers. I did not mean to make that big mess. Let's get rid of why does it do that? All right, fine, plus. So I want to go ahead and add these first 2 numbers together. So I see they have the same sign, right? They're both negative, so I know the answer to that problem, right, is going to be negative. And then I'm going to add their absolute value. So the absolute value of -6 is 6. The absolute value of -3 is 3. So I have, let's write that out. So I know our answer is negative, and I'm going to take the absolute value of 6, right? And I'm going to add the absolute value of -3. And then I have this trailing +2 I have to deal with, right? So this right here, right, is going to give me a -9. And to that, I'm going to add a +2. Now I have these 2 numbers. One's positive and one's negative. So I take the sign of the one that has the greater absolute value. Well, -9 has a greater absolute value than 2. So I know immediately that my answer, right, is going to be negative. And now I add, their signs here are different. So that tells me I'm going to subtract their absolute value. So this time I'm going to come back over here, right? And I'm going to subtract the absolute value of -9. And from that number, I'm going to subtract the absolute value of 2. Well, the absolute value of -9 is 9. The absolute value of 2 is 2. So that gives me 7. And I already declared my answer was negative. So, this is my answer right here. And, of course, it matches what we got on the graph, right? So both of those right here were -7. So once again, this was a little bit longer because there were more numbers to deal with. When I graphed it, right, I started at -6. From that, right, I subtracted a +3, so that meant I went down 3. That put me at -9. And then I was to subtract 2, so that tells me subtract -2, so subtracting tells me to go down, but I was subtracting a negative, so that tells me I have to go in reverse. I went in reverse 2, and I was at negative 7. And if I was to do it algebraically, right, I have negative 6, and I'm going to change that to an addition, so I change that sign, so I have to change that sign. I end up with negative 6 plus negative 3. They're both negative, so I know my answer is negative. Since they're both negative, I add their absolute values, and that gave me negative 9. And then I had minus a negative 2. I had to write that as an addition problem, so I changed that sign, which meant I had to change that sign as well. So when I got the negative 9, I had to add to that, right, my plus 2. Since their signs were different when I'm adding them, the negative 9 had a greater absolute value, so I kept his sign. And then since the signs were different, I subtract their absolute value. That gave me 7, and my final answer is negative 7. And we finished that one, guys. Yay. All right, that's it for videos. One more this week.